This is Optimal Finance Daily, episode 460. These 7 strategies save us thousands each year in taxes, part 2, by Philip Taylor of ptmoney.com. And I'm your host and narrator here on the program, Dan, and I am here each Monday through Friday reading to you from some of the best personal finance blogs on the planet. And hey, maybe you've got some ideas for us, maybe some topics you'd like to hear us cover. Come share those over at oldpodcast.com. And because it's Friday, I'm going to keep this intro nice and short for you, but if you do enjoy the show, please listen all the way through to the end. I'd appreciate it. For now, let's hear today's post as we optimize your life. These 7 strategies save us thousands each year in taxes, part 2, by Philip Taylor of ptmoney.com. 2. Giving extra to your church and other charities. We try to be better givers throughout the year, but we often find ourselves playing catch-up at the end. This is not so much the case for this year, but we have at least one more check to write our church. More places to give include schools, colleges, foundations, charitable organizations like Habitat for Humanity, and others. Charitable contributions are deductible if they're made to qualifying organizations. They are reported on the Schedule A. 3. Prepaying January mortgage payment. I've taken this approach for several years, and it's worked out nicely. The payment you make in January is actually for December interest, so it's theoretically sound to deduct the interest from this payment in December as long as you actually pay it then. By paying it early, my lender should pick up on it and reflect this in my Form 1098, showing the amount of interest I paid for the year. Like property taxes, mortgage interest is deductible on Schedule A. 4. Paying annual property taxes or sales taxes early. These aren't due until January, but I can pay property taxes now, and I'll be able to deduct them on this year's return. Property taxes are big in Texas, where we have no state tax, so this is a nice deduction to add to my itemized list on Schedule A. Here in Texas, my property taxes aren't due until January 31st. However, these taxes can be deducted as an expense against your income on this year's federal tax return as long as you pay them this year. I plan to write a check for mine in the next few weeks. If you escrow your property taxes, in other words, pay them with your mortgage payment, then consider making an extra payment or two prior to the year's end. This will decrease your taxes by increasing the amount you can deduct from mortgage interest expense and property taxes. If your plan is to make a large consumer purchase, like a car or a boat, within the next few weeks, consider making the purchase prior to year end. The sales taxes incurred on the transaction can then be deducted from this year's taxes. A word of caution. Don't let the tail wag the dog here. Unless you are already planning a big purchase, don't shoot for this deduction. Making a big consumer purchase is best when you've had time to evaluate your needs and create a plan to get the best deal. Don't go buy something big just to get a little tax deduction. Now let's move to some ideas for those of you who run a small business. I run a couple of small businesses, this blog and FinCon, so I also look for ways that my business income and expense can help me have a happier tax season. 5. Spend next year's business dollars now. In the past, I've chosen to reinvest some of my earnings from the year back into the business. Last year, I actually already made a couple of these purchases, a new monitor and a wireless keyboard. Both have helped to make my home office a more productive place and helped to reduce my taxable business income. A few years ago, I accelerated one business expense, rent. I prepaid 3 months' rent at my new office. Think about your business expenses over the next couple of months. Is there anything you can purchase now that you will absolutely know you'll need next year? Doing so will increase your expenses and reduce your taxable income. 6. Delay billing for business services. I use the cash basis of accounting, so I don't count income unless I've received the payment. For some of my clients, if I don't want to receive payment, I simply don't invoice them. By delaying income, you reduce your taxable income for the year and will pay fewer taxes. 7. Opening and contributing to an individual or solo 401k. Just like on the personal side, a tax-advantaged retirement account like the individual or solo 401k can really help you rack up the deductions. I opened an individual 401k for my business a while back. I contributed the maximum that I could afford before the end of the year. This reduced my current year tax burden by a significant sum, and I plan to do the same for years to come. Should you seek professional year-end tax planning services? The end of the year is traditionally a time for many people to assess their financial situation, often with the help of a tax expert, and make some decisions that can result in lower tax obligations. For example, making a contribution into an IRA before you file your taxes adds a tax benefit for that year and is often a strategy recommended by a tax professional. But these past few years have been especially important as far as tax planning services goes, so much so that it makes sense for anyone except a person with no investments and the very simplest of tax returns to seek the advice of an expert to make the proper tax planning decisions before the end of the year. Of course, if you simply can't justify giving any money to a CPA, there is a free tax service available that can provide a lot of information about your tax situation and whether you are likely to owe any money to the government. One that comes to mind is the TurboTax free tool TaxCaster. A more expedient approach would be to just download the current version of TurboTax or use TurboTax online and go through the what-if scenarios. As long as you have the information about your income, the software will estimate if you should expect a check back from the government. You can even run through scenarios in which you make charitable contributions or end-of-the-year payments to an IRA to see the impact it has on a potential tax refund. If, however, you itemize your tax return, and especially if you took advantage of any credits or exemptions on last year's tax return, it makes sense to seek tax planning services this year from a professional. He or she can help you decide whether it's better to take advantage of all possible deductions before the end of this year, defer income into next year if possible, as well as other tax planning strategies. You just listened to part 2 of the post titled "These 7 Strategies Save Us Thousands Each Year in Taxes" by Philip Taylor of PTmoney.com. And a big thanks, as always, to PT for letting us share his content. And now, before we head off for the weekend, we could really use your support to help keep these podcasts alive and well. We've got a page all set up over at oldpodcast.com/support, and there you'll find a bunch of simple things that you can do to help us out. When you have a moment, please do come by and check it out. We greatly appreciate it. Again, that link again is oldpodcast.com/support. That's oldpodcast.com/support. And that's another week in the books here at Optimal Finance Daily. I had fun. Hope you did too. And I'll be back with more posts for you next week. So have a great weekend, everybody, and I'll catch you Monday where your optimal life awaits.
Hello, Life Optimizer. This is Justin Malik, creator and producer of this podcast, but also Optimal Living Daily, the show where I read to you from even more blogs covering finance, productivity, minimalism, personal development, and more from incredible bloggers like Derek Sivers, Zen Habits, Mark and Angel, The Minimalists, and all the ones you hear on this show too. So if you enjoyed today's episode and like taking amazing blogs on the go, come on over to Optimal Living Daily and subscribe to that one too. And together, we'll start optimizing your life.
You've been listening to Optimal Finance Daily. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on each new episode and head to oldpodcast.com. That's OLDpodcast.com for a free gift as well as more actionable tips and resources to help you maximize your potential. Thanks for joining us, and remember, your optimal life awaits.